The universe had never seen paperwork quite like this before. Dr. Torven Blix, chief xenobiologist at the Intergalactic Classification Authority, stared at his holographic display with all four eyes blinking in different patterns of distress. His crystalline exoskeleton shifted colors from calm blue to agitated orange as he processed the data streaming across his terminal. Beside him, junior analyst Kixla floated in her containment sphere, her gaseous form swirling with equally troubled hues. "Run the scan again," Torven said, tapping the display with one of his 6 manipulator appendages. "These readings cannot possibly be correct." Kixla's voice emanated from the sphere's translation matrix. "I've run it 6 times, Doctor. The results are consistent. These humans really do operate with a shared entry point for both respiratory and nutrient intake." "That's not just inefficient," Torven muttered. "That's actively suicidal. What kind of evolutionary path produces a design flaw that creates an 11% chance of death during every feeding cycle?" The discovery of Earth had been routine at first. A standard surveyor vessel had picked up primitive radio transmissions while mapping the outer spiral arm. What should have been a simple classification job had turned into the authorities' most baffling case in 12,000 years. Humans, it seemed, violated every established biological norm the galaxy had spent millennia documenting. Torven pulled up another data stream, his exoskeleton flashing angry red. Their primary processing organ is housed in a thin calcium shell with no redundancy, no backup systems, no regenerative capacity worth mentioning. One solid impact to the cranial region and the entire organism ceases to function. "They also spend a third of their lifespan in a paralytic state," Kixla added, her gases churning faster. "Completely vulnerable to predation for 8 hours out of every 24. "This can't be real," Torven said, though his tone suggested he knew it was. "No species this poorly designed should have survived to develop sentience, let alone become the dominant life form on their planet." Within 48 hours, an emergency committee convened in the Grand Chamber. Representatives from every major biological classification gathered, their various forms occupying spaces designed for everything from microscopic silicon-based intelligence to massive methane breathers. Administrator Nalven, a collective consciousness housed in synthetic form for convenience, called the session to order. "Colleagues, we face an unprecedented anomaly. The species from Sol 3, designated humans, displays biological characteristics that defy rational explanation." Dr. Torven took the central platform, his exoskeleton now a steady purple of professional concern. "Distinguished members, I must report that humans violate 73 established biological norms. They possess no natural defenses beyond a dermal layer that tears from simple puncture wounds. Their visual sensors number only 2, creating obvious vulnerability. They require constant hydration yet lack efficient water storage. Their blood chemistry operates on iron, one of the most reactive elements." Murmurs of shock rippled through the chamber in various frequencies and chemical releases. "Surely they compensate with advanced technology," someone from the methane-breathing section rumbled. "Negative," Torven replied. "They still use combustion-based energy production. Their medical science consists primarily of ingesting chemical compounds and hoping for optimal results. Their reproductive efficiency is absurdly low, with offspring requiring years before reaching self-sufficiency." "Then how?" Administrator Nalven asked. "Have they survived?" Torven's colors shifted to confused yellow. "That's precisely what baffles us. By every rational standard, humans should be extinct. Yet they've eliminated countless competitors, reshaped their entire planetary ecosystem, and now possess primitive spaceflight capability." The committee spent the next several cycles debating. Some advocated immediate containment, arguing that any species thriving despite such disadvantages must possess hidden dangers. Others wanted detailed observation from safe distances. A few radical voices suggested direct contact, though this idea was quickly dismissed as premature. "We need comprehensive data," Administrator Nalven finally declared. "Deploy our full monitoring grid. I want to understand how these creatures function before we make any determination about their classification." Invisible to human detection, the most sophisticated biological monitoring system ever created spread throughout Earth's atmosphere. Nanoscopic sensors transmitted data continuously back to the authorities' central computers. What they revealed made the situation worse. "They what?" Torven exclaimed, reviewing new findings with growing alarm. Their bodies actively host billions of foreign microorganisms, Kixla confirmed. It appears essential to their digestive functions. They literally cannot process nutrients without outsourcing the work to bacteria. Torven brought up another data stream, his exoskeleton flashing through several colors of dismay. And this stress response, this adrenaline compound they produce, it temporarily enhances physical capabilities but causes long-term cellular damage. An effective short-term survival strategy, Kixla noted, at the cost of shortening their already brief lifespans. They're biologically designed to sacrifice longevity for immediate advantage, Torven said, his colors settling into thoughtful green. No wonder they're so reckless. They're built to take absurd risks. As weeks passed, the data painted an increasingly contradictory picture. Humans possessed limited regenerative capabilities, healing bones and skin slowly and inconsistently. Their immune systems fought pathogens effectively, but occasionally turned against their own tissues. They could survive with only one of their paired waste filtration organs. They voluntarily damaged their muscle tissue through exercise to induce beneficial adaptation. They displayed remarkable genetic diversity despite inefficient reproduction. Most perplexing was the human brain, a collection of specialized regions that somehow produced consciousness, abstract thought, and creative expression. Their neural impulses traveled at merely 100 meters per second, glacial by galactic standards. Their memory systems were imprecise and subject to constant unconscious revision. Yet they developed advanced mathematics, created art, built complex civilizations. Perhaps their limitations drive innovation, Dr. Kelrath suggested during a follow-up presentation. The respected researcher's light patterns flickered with interest. Their neural architecture excels at pattern recognition and creative connections. They see relationships where none exist, which typically indicates mental dysfunction, but for humans occasionally leads to breakthrough insights. In a controversial move, the classification authority assembled a subcommittee to develop theoretical biological improvements for humans. The resulting report included recommendations like reinforced cranial protection, separated respiratory and digestive systems, secondary circulatory organs, improved dermal shielding, optimized reproductive systems, elimination of vestigial structures, conscious regeneration control, and reduced sleep requirements. These modifications would extend their lifespans by 300%, the bioengineering specialist explained, and reduce environmental vulnerability by a factor of 12. When someone asked about implementing the changes, profound silence filled the chamber. "We don't actually intend to modify them," Torven said carefully, all eyes focused on Administrator Nalven. "That would violate interstellar conventions." "Correct," Nalven confirmed. "This is purely theoretical. We observe and classify. We do not interfere." Yet privately, Torven wondered if humans might benefit from improvements. He surreptitiously inserted the proposed modifications into humanity's digital networks, disguised as speculative research from an obscure institution. The response shocked him. "They're laughing at it," Kixla reported, monitoring human internet reactions. "They've created humorous images. One human wrote, 'Nice try, but I'm keeping my appendix.' It's vintage. They're rejecting improvements to their own biology." Torven's exoskeleton flashed confused yellow. "On what grounds?" "They consider their biological quirks part of what makes them human," Kixla said, sounding equally baffled. "Some suggest these design flaws might be features rather than bugs." This attachment to inefficiency proved the most alien aspect of humans. While most species constantly sought optimization through technology or genetic manipulation, humans celebrated their limitations. They created art about suffering. They wrote songs about heartbreak. They told stories glorifying their ability to overcome biological shortcomings. "Perhaps we're approaching this incorrectly," Dr. Kelrath suggested during a private consultation with Administrator Nalven. "What if their seemingly flawed biology is optimized for something we haven't considered?" "Explain," Nalven's synthetic housing hummed with interest. "Adaptability," Kelrath said. "Humans survive in environments ranging from Arctic tundra to equatorial desert. They consume virtually any organic matter. They form social bonds with entirely different species. They've domesticated animals through behavioral conditioning across generations. Their chaotic biology gives them advantages in changing circumstances. You're suggesting most species evolved for specific niches, while humans evolved to adapt to any niche they encounter, or modify that niche to suit themselves." Kelrath's light patterns indicated admiration mixed with concern. It's messy, inefficient, and horrifyingly effective. As if proving the point, monitoring systems detected increased human activity around polar regions. Rising temperatures from industrial activity had begun melting ancient ice, potentially threatening coastal populations. Perfect, Torven declared. A true test of their adaptive capabilities. If their biology is optimized for flexibility, we'll see a coordinated response. Should we not warn them? Kixla asked. Our models predict significant disruption. Absolutely not, Torven said firmly. This is precisely the evolutionary pressure that drives adaptation in efficient species. But humans defied expectations again. Rather than adapting themselves to environmental changes, they began implementing large-scale projects to address root causes of temperature increase. They're attempting to modify planetary atmospheric conditions, Kixla reported with mixture of alarm and awe. Instead of adapting to change, they're trying to reverse it. Typical human arrogance, Torven muttered, though his tone carried grudging respect. Why adapt yourself when you can force an entire planet to adapt to you? Doctor. Kelrath addressed a subsequent committee meeting with a controversial observation. I'm beginning to think what's wrong with human biology isn't wrong at all. It's different, optimized for conditions we haven't properly understood. You're suggesting we revise our standards, one conservative member warned. Perhaps revision is overdue, Kelrath replied. Classification should describe reality, not force reality to conform to classifications. While the authority debated, humans remained unaware of scrutiny. They continued their chaotic, contradictory existence, surviving despite biological flaws, or perhaps because of them. What the authority didn't realize was that their academic debate would soon become urgently practical. Across the galaxy, a crisis was brewing that would test humanity's peculiar adaptations and force the authority to reconsider everything about optimal biology. The universe, like an absent-minded professor, occasionally misplaces things. In this case, it misplaced approximately 15 trillion tons of hyperdense exotic matter. Specifically, a rogue neutron fragment traveling at 20% of light speed had somehow slipped through the galaxy's early warning detection grid. By the time the Galactic Astronomical Society noticed this oversight, the fragment was already entering the vicinity of Earth's unremarkable yellow star. Panic, it turns out, is universal. How did we miss this? The High Council demanded, their various appendages and energy fields vibrating with alarm. It traveled through a dense dust cloud that masked its gravitational signature, the chief astronomer explained, 17 eyes blinking in distress. By the time it emerged, standard protocols couldn't respond in time. The fragment wouldn't strike Earth directly, but it would pass close enough to cause catastrophic gravitational disruption. Tsunamis, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, the usual cosmic consequences for a planet about to experience disaster. We must evacuate the primary sentient species, one council member declared. There are over 8 billion humans, another interrupted. Our combined fleet couldn't evacuate even 1% before impact. Besides, any intervention would violate protocols. Are we really letting 8 billion sentients perish because of bureaucracy? A third member hissed. While the council debated ethics, the classification authority had moved into crisis mode. This is unprecedented, Torven admitted, reviewing projected impact scenarios. None of our models predicted this. We have no data on how humans might respond to this level of disaster. Based on historical records, Kixla began, humans have survived numerous extinction events through a combination of... Nothing like this, Dr. Kelrath interrupted. Their planet has experienced asteroid impacts, supervolcanic eruptions, ice ages, but nothing approaching this magnitude. The gravitational distortions alone will render large portions of their world temporarily uninhabitable. The authority watched through monitoring systems as first effects manifested on Earth. Tidal patterns shifted. Seismic activity increased. Animals displayed unusual migration behaviors. Yet humans, with their limited perception, noticed only minor disturbances easily attributed to normal variations. They don't even know what's coming, Kixla whispered with genuine concern. Shouldn't we warn them and tell them what? Torven countered. That the sky is falling, they lack technology to do anything about it. Meanwhile, the High Council reached a decision. They would dispatch their most advanced gravitational manipulation vessel to alter the fragment's trajectory. Not enough to prevent close encounter entirely, but perhaps enough to reduce worst effects. The mission failed spectacularly. The manipulation vessel approached cautiously. Its crew deployed gravitational sinks, massive devices designed to bend spacetime itself. For a brief moment, it seemed to work. The fragment's trajectory shifted by 0.03 degrees, enough to matter. Then the unexpected happened. The fragment, composed of matter so dense that physics struggled to describe it, reacted to manipulation in ways theoretical models hadn't predicted. It split, not cleanly, but into three uneven pieces, each traveling on slightly different vectors. Instead of one manageable disaster, Earth now faced three separate cosmic calamities. Well, Dr. Kelrath remarked dryly as the Authority watched the fleet's failure in real time, that certainly made things more interesting. Monitoring systems showed increasing awareness among humans that something was wrong. Their primitive detection equipment had finally noticed approaching fragments. Their information networks buzzed with theories, predictions, and panic. "They're responding," Kixla noted with surprise. "Look at these organizational patterns. They're not just panicking, they're coordinating." Across Earth, humans mobilized. Not uniformly or logically, that would be too unhuman, but in a chaotic, multi-pronged approach reflecting their decentralized societies. Some groups constructed deep underground shelters, others developed evacuation plans for coastal regions. Scientists worked frantically to refine impact predictions and develop mitigation strategies. "Fascinating, Doctor," Kelrath murmured. "They've skipped past initial shock entirely and moved straight to problem-solving. That's unexpected." "And futile," Torven added. "What do they hope to accomplish? They can't stop the fragments. They can't even leave their planet." Yet humans continued preparations with remarkable speed. Within days, they'd constructed emergency response frameworks spanning the entire planet. Resources were redistributed. Technologies normally reserved for military use were repurposed for civilian protection. Even their usually fractious political entities found common cause facing extinction. "Their adrenaline response," Kixla realized suddenly. "The same biology we mocked. Their ability to flood systems with performance-enhancing chemicals in response to threats. It's operating at a societal level now." "They're burning through resources at unsustainable rates," Torven observed. "Their productivity has increased by nearly 300%, but they can't maintain this pace." "They don't need to maintain it," Kelrath countered. "They just need to survive the immediate crisis." As fragments drew closer, the Authority watched humans execute hastily constructed plans. Millions relocated to designated safe zones. Reinforced structures were completed in record time. Food, medical supplies, and essential technologies were stockpiled in distributed caches designed to survive localized destruction. "They're not trying to save everyone," Torven realized with mixture of horror and reluctant admiration. "They're ensuring enough survive to rebuild." When the first fragment entered Earth's upper atmosphere, creating a brilliant streak visible from half the planet, the Authority fell silent. Monitoring systems captured cascading disasters, tectonic shifts, atmospheric disturbances, electromagnetic fluctuations disabling much of human technology. The second and third fragments followed hours later, each striking different hemispheres, each bringing its own catalog of disasters. When cosmic dust settled, humans endured, not without losses. Millions perished despite preparations. Entire regions became temporarily uninhabitable. The planet bore new scars visible from orbit. But humanity survived. Not just survived, but immediately began implementing pre-planned recovery protocols. "Impossible," Torven whispered, all four eyes wide. "Their recovery rate exceeds our most optimistic projections by an order of magnitude." "Is it impossible?" Kelrath asked quietly. "Or did we simply fail to understand what these humans are truly adapted for?" The Authority watched humans crawl from civilization's rubble and begin without hesitation to rebuild. Their peculiar biology, the redundant organs, the stress responses, the ability to survive on minimal resources, the psychological resilience in face of trauma, suddenly seemed less like evolutionary mistakes and more like specialized adaptations for catastrophe survival. "I think," Kixla said, breaking stunned silence, "we need to reconsider our definition of optimal biology." 6 months after what humans dubbed the fragmentation event, the Intergalactic Classification Authority convened an extraordinary session. The chamber, usually arranged in strict hierarchical tiers, had been reconfigured into a circle. a subtle but significant acknowledgement that traditional perspectives might need adjustment. This session will now commence, Administrator Nalvan announced. Today we consider the new petition, proposed reclassification of human biology from anomalous to specialized adaptation category. Dr. Kelrath's light patterns pulsed with anticipation as they took central position. Distinguished colleagues, the evidence is irrefutable. Humans have not merely survived a catastrophe that by all our models should have reduced their civilization to pre-industrial levels for at least 3 centuries. They have already restored 68% of their infrastructure and show accelerating recovery rates. Holographic displays materialized around the chamber, showing time-lapse imagery of human reconstruction efforts. Cities rising from rubble, agricultural systems adapting to altered climate conditions, new technologies emerging from pressure of necessity. Their biological flaws are in fact specialized adaptations for crisis response, Kelrath continued. Their inefficient sleep cycles allow round-the-clock work rotations. Their adrenaline-based stress response enables short-term performance enhancement precisely when needed most. Their psychological resilience, what we previously termed irrational optimism, maintains social cohesion under extreme pressure. Torvan, now serving as authority director following hasty promotion, activated his communication node. The authority acknowledges these observations, but questions whether a single event, however significant, justifies rewriting galactic biological standards established over 12 millennia. It's not just this event, Kelrath countered. Reviewing human history through this new lens, we see a species literally shaped by catastrophe. Their planet has experienced at least 5 mass extinction events. Their own development has been punctuated by pandemics, wars, climate shifts, and resource scarcity. They're not poorly designed. They're exquisitely adapted for a planet that consistently tries to kill them. Murmurs of consideration rippled through the assembly. Kixla, now a senior examiner, added her perspective. Perhaps most remarkable is their capacity to derive meaning from suffering. Other species experience trauma as purely negative. Humans integrate it into their identity and often emerge stronger. They have a term for this, post-traumatic growth. The debate continued for several cycles, ranging from technical biological arguments to philosophical questions about the nature of adaptation itself. Eventually, Administrator Nalvan called for a decision. The authority has reached consensus, they announced. Human biology will be reclassified as crisis-adapted specialized evolution, a new category acknowledging species optimized for high-variability environments and catastrophic event survival. In the observation room later, that cycle, Kelrath, Torvan, and Kixla watched the holographic display of Earth, where humans continued their improbable recovery. You know, Kixla said thoughtfully, perhaps the most remarkable thing about humans isn't their biological adaptations at all, but their complete ignorance of how extraordinary they are. They think themselves fragile. The ultimate adaptation, Kelrath replied, light patterns indicating amusement. A species that consistently underestimates itself will consistently overcompensate. Torvan's exoskeleton pulsated with what might have been laughter. So what's wrong with human biology? Nothing at all. The question we should have been asking is, what's wrong with our understanding of biology? As the 3 aliens watched humanity rebuild what should have been unrebuildable, a thought occurred simultaneously to each of them. Perhaps the universe had more to learn from these strange, contradictory creatures than anyone had imagined. And somewhere on Earth, a human named Ryan Mitchell sneezed, complained about having only 2 hands, and then went right back to remaking his world, blissfully unaware of being the galaxy's new gold standard for crisis adaptation.